Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. A couple of weeks ago, Owlcat announced the Dance of Mass, the final DLC for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, will be released on June 13th and includes several new archetypes. They released information for half of them last week, and there's a link in the description below to that video. Today, they released the other half, and I am excited to review it with all of you. The first archetype is Sable Company Marine under Ranger, and it looks absolutely sick. As you can tell from the picture, it allows you to ride a hippogriff while firing at enemies. Similar to the DLC party member Olbrig, your hippogriff can fly into the air, allowing you to bypass the enemy front line and nosedive directly into soft targets within the backfield. Pets are very durable and wicked powerful in this game, so getting one is just about always a major boost. Mounted combat is very effective in part because when you are mounted, the vast majority of attacks hit your pet first, allowing your character to focus more on damage. Usually rangers are associated with ranged combat, but in Wrath of the Righteous, they also make fantastic melee combatants, which is important because melee combat works much better for mounted combat than range. If you are within melee distance of your opponent, both your character and the hippogriff can attack. If you are ranged, the AI won't automatically have your pet move within melee distance, so your mounted character will pelt enemies while your pet just stands around, reducing your potential damage output. So playing as a mounted melee character saves you from a lot of micromanagement. All the way around, this subclass sounds fantastic, the hippogriff in the screenshot looks great, and I am definitely looking forward to trying this out. The next archetype is Bladebound under Magus, and it's another one I am really excited for. This subclass has you forming a pack with a sentient black blade. The black blade is a powerful weapon that becomes stronger each time you level up. Eventually, it becomes so powerful that it can act on its own, allowing you to hold a different weapon in your hands and presumably increasing your damage output significantly. The Black Blade is so independent that it will continue to protect the character even if they are unconscious, and it will automatically return to you at the end of every fight. To me, all of that sounds absolutely fantastic, and the red outline of the blade when it attacks looks super cool. I've never played a Magus before, and this subclass might convince me to make the leap. Also, Owlcat says this archetype was heavily inspired by Alucard from the Castlevania series. That's unquestionably one of the best animated series I've seen on Netflix and one of the best video game adaptations period, so it's really cool to see one of my favorite developers taking inspiration from it. Next up on the list is the Mantis Zealot under the class I hate the most, War Priest. War Priest is terrible, and I don't think this subclass makes them stop sucking, but it is admittedly interesting. Playing as Mantis Zealot makes you a member of the Red Mantis, an organization who worship the evil deity Archetypes. Speaking of which, Archetypes is being added into the game as a new deity. He is the god of assassins and depicted as a giant mantis. His logo is two mantis claws held in prayer position. In addition to being part of this elite group, you'll wield twin sawtooth sabers that can tear through enemy defenses that would easily deflect other weapons. As you level up, you'll gain the ability to invoke your deity and summon hordes of flying mantises who can even hide in swarms and become almost indistinguishable from the surrounding insects. Alright, again, War Priest sucks, but I have to admit this subclass sounds interesting, especially since it might potentially have some synergy with Swarm. Not exactly sure what hiding in the Swarm really means, but hopefully that's clarified when I can see the mechanics details. I am saying this through gritted teeth, but I will probably give Mantis Zealot a whirl while I try out the new Swarm content. Next up is Kinetic Sharpshooter under Kineticists. This subclass allows you to fire charges from a ranged weapon. You cannot build up force before attacking, but you can stockpile charges in advance with your quiver. Consequently, you don't have to waste time building up force at the beginning of a fight, and instead can use your weapon to attack immediately. Owlcat has also added new infusions that are unique to this archetype. These infusions will only apply to ranged weapons and enable the subclass's charges to bypass resistances, break armor, or even ricochet from one target to another. So on the one hand, all of this sounds very interesting and definitely different from what Kineticist is currently capable of. On the other hand, I think this subclass will end up suffering from the same issue all the other Kineticist subclass suffer from. Kineticist is pound for pound one of, if not the most powerful classes in the game. Any subclass that takes away from its mechanics is pretty much automatically weaker. You can use sharpshooter and create bolts that will bounce between a couple of enemies, or just go regular Kineticist, pick up the trip magma area of effect, and basically melt everybody on the screen automatically. Really hard to imagine this is going to stack up. Last, but certainly not least, we have Magic Deceiver, an archetype under another class I am not a huge fan of, Arcanist. Once again, this option sounds really interesting, and I might have to give it a whirl. Magic Deceiver allows you to combine known spells and create entirely new forms of manipulation. You'll gain this ability at level 1, allowing you to fuse the effects of 2 regular spells from your spellbook. A fused spell has the effects of both of the initial spells. These effects are applied in order, one after the other. A fused spell gains all of the descriptors of the initial spell and has a spell level equal to the highest level of the initial spells. It is always cast as a standard action and cannot be modified using meta magic. When creating a fused spell, you'll choose between the properties of the initial spells if they come from different schools of magic, have different shapes, or require saves of different types. If a saving throw is required, the target will always make a single saving throw unless the description calls for a secondary save, such as with the Phantasmal Killer spell. You'll be able to name this spell and add it into your spellbook. You can have up to 10 fused spells in your spellbook at one time. You don't receive bonus spells from ability scores, and you cannot add spells from other classes' spell list into your spellbook. Very interesting. This subclass sounds perfect for Naneo. That being said, without looking at the fine print, I think this is mediocre and basically only useful for a buff bot. Whether you are utilizing damaging spells or crowd control effects, meta magic feats are essential to really impacting enemies. You must force them to attempt saves more than once and allow your spells to damage them multiple times in one turn. Buffs obviously don't need to push past your allies' defenses, so this could be a really cool way to save on a lot of the time and spell slots you have to spend buffing characters after a rest. Still, I'll probably give this one a pass, but it's definitely nice to have in the list. That wraps up all the information I have regarding new archetypes in Dance of Mask. Again, this DLC will be available June 13th, and you already know I'll be all over it. Let me know down in the comments, is there any specific content you want to see regarding this update? Are you more interested in the new archetype mechanics, or do you want to hear about the storyline within the DLC? Supposedly we are going to get new mythic content with this release. Are there any particular paths you are curious about? Let me know and I will do my best to make sure you get all the content you are looking for. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.